That cookie sitting on your counter right now contains 600 calories. To burn that off, you would have to sprint for almost an hour straight. 55 minutes of gasping, sweating, and hating every second of it. Just to cancel out one single snack. You cannot outrun your plate. The math has never worked, and it never will. But you can outsmart your own metabolism instead. Most people think fitness has to feel like punishment. They believe if they are not completely exhausted, they are not really losing anything. So they sprint, they push through brutal workouts, they collapse on the floor afterward. And 6 months later, they look almost exactly the same in the mirror. There is a walking method that works completely differently. It has nothing to do with burning as many calories as possible. It has everything to do with controlling insulin after you eat. It sounds too simple to work, but the biology behind it is very real. Stay with me for the next few minutes, and this could change how you move forever. Let's first understand why belly fat is so much more stubborn than everywhere else. Why can you diet for weeks, watch your face get leaner, your arms get smaller, and that stubborn ring around your waist barely moves at all? It is not because you lack discipline, it is because your body is actively protecting that fat on purpose. Fat cells are not just passive little energy bags sitting under your skin. They have receptors, almost like tiny switches that decide what happens next. Think of them like light switches wired directly into your hormones. There are two main types you need to understand here. First, the beta receptors. Think of these as the green lights. When adrenaline reaches a beta receptor, it unlocks the fat cell to release energy. Your face, your arms, and your chest are covered in these green lights. That is exactly why those areas slim down first when you start losing weight. But then there are the alpha receptors, and these are the red lights. When certain hormones reach these, they slam the doors shut instead. They tell the cell to hold onto its fat no matter what. And here is the frustrating part almost nobody explains clearly. The fat covering your stomach has a much higher number of these red lights. Your body placed them there on purpose to protect your organs during hard times. As far as your biology is concerned, that belly fat is doing its job. And this is exactly where most people accidentally sabotage themselves without realizing it. When you do intense cardio, sprinting, or brutal interval training, something shifts inside you. Your body enters a full-blown fight or flight response. It floods your system with adrenaline and cortisol at the same time. In your arms, that adrenaline hits a green light, and fat there gets released. But in your belly, that same adrenaline hits a red light instead. And cortisol makes everything worse. Chronically elevated cortisol has been closely linked to increased fat storage around the stomach. So by pushing yourself to exhaustion in the gym, you are sending the wrong signal. You are literally training your body to protect your belly fat more, not less. So how do we fix this? How do we turn that red light back to green? We need to move the body without stressing the body out. We need to reach a specific state called the fat burning zone. Picture your body as having two separate fuel tanks. Tank 1 is small, packed with high-octane fuel. This is your stored sugar. Your body reaches for this tank when you sprint or lift something heavy. It burns fast and it burns hot. Tank 2 is enormous, like an oil tanker sitting quietly in the background. This is your body fat. Your body prefers pulling from this tank during slow, steady, low-intensity movement. A major review study analyzing dozens of trials looked at exactly this question. The conclusion was clear and consistent across the research. High-intensity cardio burns mostly sugar. Low-intensity movement burns mostly fat. Your body does not care about effort, it cares about efficiency. When you sprint, you are mostly burning the sandwich you had for lunch. When you walk, you are quietly burning the fat sitting on your hips and waist. This is the walking advantage almost nobody talks about. When you walk, your heart rate stays in a range where you can still hold a conversation. In this zone, cortisol stays low, which means those red light receptors on your belly never get triggered to lock down. Meanwhile, your body leans almost entirely on fat for fuel. The answer, as you have probably guessed, is walking. But before you roll your eyes thinking you already walked to your car and back, listen closely, because casually strolling around is not going to reshape your body. If it were that simple, every mail carrier would have visible abs by now. To actually use this for real fat loss, you need real structure. But first, we need to clear up a myth that keeps people stuck. I already know the comments. Running burns way more calories. It is just basic math. And on paper, that is technically true. A 30-minute run burns around 350 calories. A 30-minute walk burns around 150. But you are not a spreadsheet. You are a living, breathing, hormonal creature. And one hormone in particular changes this entire equation, a hunger hormone called ghrelin. This is what researchers call the compensatory effect. When you push through intense exercise, your body senses a sudden, sharp energy deficit. It panics, and it spikes your hunger hormones almost immediately afterward. So you go for a hard run, you burn those 350 calories, you feel proud. Then, an hour later, you are suddenly starving in a way that feels almost uncontrollable. You grab a bagel or an extra scoop of rice at dinner without really thinking. That bagel alone is roughly 400 calories. So congratulations, you suffered through a brutal run just to end up in a slight surplus. It gets worse. After an intense workout, your body quietly tries to conserve energy the rest of the day. You move less without noticing, you take the elevator instead of the stairs. You sit a little longer on the couch than you normally would. Walking does the complete opposite of all of this. Walking is naturally self-regulating. It does not spike ghrelin, and it does not leave you wiped out afterward. You can walk for a full hour, burn around 300 calories of pure fat, and your appetite stays remarkably steady the entire day. You do not feel this deep, urgent need to reward yourself with food afterward. If you walk for 1 hour daily, that is roughly 300 calories burned. Do that 7 days a week, and that adds up to 2,100 calories weekly. That is close to 2/3 of a pound of pure fat, gone, every single week. Multiply that across an entire year, and you are looking at over 30 pounds. Most people who chase intense cardio quit within a few weeks, usually from burnout or injury. The person who simply keeps walking wins, because they never actually stop. Okay, so walking wins, but how do we structure it for the fastest possible results? Most people get this part wrong immediately. They try to hit 10,000 steps by taking one giant, exhausting walk at night. Do not do that. That is the hard way, and it rarely lasts. Instead, we are going to use something called insulin stacking. Fat loss becomes almost impossible while insulin stays high in your bloodstream. Insulin is a storage hormone. When you eat, insulin rises to help store that incoming energy somewhere in your body. We want to shift your body back into burning mode as quickly as possible after meals. Step 1 is what we can call the after-meal trigger. A study published in a respected diabetes journal found something genuinely striking. Walking for just 10 minutes right after a meal dramatically improves blood sugar control, far more than walking at some random point later in the day. So here is your simple rule going forward. Take 3 short walks a day, 10 minutes each, right after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That is only 30 minutes of movement, roughly 3,000 steps total. By doing this, you soften the insulin spike from every meal. You force your body to actually use that food instead of quietly storing it as fat. Step 2 is what we can call the invisible movement code. This refers to all the small movement you do outside of formal exercise. Fidgeting, standing, pacing, walking around the kitchen while you cook. The real difference between naturally lean people and everyone else often is not the gym. It is this invisible daily movement, and the gap can be enormous. Here are 3 incredibly simple habits to add thousands of free steps effortlessly. Habit number 1. The parking lot rule. Park at the very back of the lot. It quietly adds several hundred steps round trip without costing you any real time. Habit number 2. The pacer. Never sit still while you are on a phone call. A single 10-minute call can easily add close to 1,000 steps. Habit number 3. Skip the elevator. Take the stairs whenever you reasonably can. Climbing stairs burns calories significantly faster than walking on flat ground. Stack the after-meal walks with these small daily habits, and you will likely hit 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day almost without trying. Now, for those of you who want faster, more visible results, there is one more tool worth adding: incline walking. Walking on a flat surface is genuinely great. Walking on an incline is a completely different level. Biomechanically, walking uphill dramatically increases the demand on your body. Without the joint pounding impact that comes with running, it forces your glutes and hamstrings to work much harder against gravity. There is a popular treadmill setup worth trying, a steep incline, a slow, steady pace. Roughly 30 minutes at that setting burns nearly as much as a light jog, while still keeping your cortisol low enough to stay in that fat burning zone. Do not grip the handrails while you do this. Form matters more than the display number. The second you lean back and hold on, you shift the workload onto your arms instead. Let your arms swing naturally and lower the incline if you can't do it unassisted. Add 2 or 3 of these incline sessions weekly on top of your daily walks, and your results will noticeably accelerate from there. Now we need to have an honest conversation because the fun part alone is not enough. You can walk to the edge of your neighborhood and back every single day. You can add incline sessions until your legs are shaking. But if your eating habits stay completely out of control, none of this will matter much. Remember that cookie from the very beginning of this video. It takes close to an hour to walk off 300 calories. It takes about 45 seconds to eat that same amount in peanut butter. A single fancy coffee drink can easily contain 500 calories or more. That is an hour and a half of walking, undone in about 5 minutes flat. You cannot outwalk your fork no matter how many steps you rack up. Instead, let your diet create the deficit and let walking amplify it. Think of your diet as the engine and walking as the turbocharger on top. Aim for a modest calorie deficit, somewhere around 300 to 500 calories daily. Combine that with this walking method, and stubborn fat has nowhere left to hide. So let's put this entire plan together into something you can actually follow. Here is a simple 12-week roadmap to visualize where you are headed. Weeks 1 through 4, find your honest daily step baseline and add 2,000 steps. Focus entirely on those short walks right after each meal. Nothing more complicated. Weeks 5 through 8, aim for a firm minimum of 8,000 steps daily. This is where the small habits, parking farther, taking stairs, really start to compound. Weeks 9 through 12, push to 10 or 12,000 steps most days. Add 2 incline sessions a week, and people around you will start noticing the change. We live in a culture that insists real results only come from suffering. That if you are not drenched in sweat and completely wrecked, you are not trying hard enough. That belief is simply not true. The most effective approach is usually the one you can actually sustain for years. Walking is one of the oldest, most natural movements the human body was built for. It clears your head, it lowers your stress, and yes, it steadily reshapes your waistline. So here is a simple challenge before you close this video. Do not worry about a year from now, just commit to the next 7 days. Track your steps and add those 3 short walks right after your meals. That is genuinely all it takes to start. Come back in a week and tell me honestly how different you feel. Your energy will likely be higher, your bloating will likely be lower, and your clothes may already start fitting a little differently than before. Movement is only half of this equation. Your nutrition matters just as much. If this helped you see fat loss differently, go ahead and hit that like button. And tell me in the comments which part of this plan you are starting with first.